Oh my god, that was a 400 mil. That was legit 400 million damage. Yo guys, what is up? Max here, Diablo 4 video, and today we're going over I think the most broken interaction I've seen on the Druid, allowing me to deal 400 million damage without uniques. The clip that I'm about to play for you, I added a friend to a Nightmare 100 dungeon just to increase the boss's health by 100%. So this is a Nightmare 100 boss with 100% more HP than it normally would have, and this is what we did to it. One shot. Oh, it's so close. That's so close. Now, the build that I'm using to deal this much damage is ShredSplosion. I have a full guide that I put out yesterday and a written guide on our website, dpscheck.gg. But if you did not know, we are using the Earthen Bulwark ability, and that ability scales the damage that it does when it explodes with your barrier bonuses. So the more barrier generation stats that you have on your gear, the more damage that this does, and the more health an enemy has, the more damage that this does. Now, I don't know why it deals more damage to enemies that have higher health, but that's part of the reason why we're dealing so much damage to these Nightmare 100 bosses, is because they have so much health, so we just deal so much more damage to them. And that is so strong. You don't need, like, fantastic gear to be seeing hundreds of millions. You just need to be doing harder content, and that is inherently so strong. I can't imagine that doesn't get nerfed in season 2. I don't think they're going to nerf it before season 2. But another thing that I learned about the build is that barrier generation caps out at 60%. I thought you needed barrier gen on every single piece of gear as much as possible to see these damage numbers, but a commenter yesterday commented on the video. It's a really smart comment. Huge props to that. I should have the comment on screen. But they basically said that barrier generation caps out at 60%. Where is my barrier generation? So I've still got 110% barrier bonus on this build, meaning I'm overcapping barrier and I'm not benefiting from about 50% of my barrier generation. What this means is that the build is even easier to make than I thought it was. I put the star chart for the build yesterday, and I said that the gear requirements were really bad, even though you don't have to have any uniques, because you need all this barrier generation in order to make it deal good damage. However, that's just not the case. You just need it basically on your chest piece, your helmet, and then socket these gems, and you can get to enough barrier generation to delete things. That is going to allow us to change our rings. Right now, both of my rings have barrier generation, crit damage, crit chance, and I'm missing vulnerable damage. I could get rid of the barrier generation on my rings and just go for full vulnerable damage, crit chance, crit damage, earth crit damage. It would be like the perfect ring, and do absurd levels of damage. We'd probably hit into the 500 millions, adding more vulnerable to this build, because right now I only have like 60% vulnerable. I probably wouldn't even need it on my totem either, but this kind of discovery from this comment means that this build is even easier to put together than I thought it was, which is so awesome, because you can put this build together with just a few pieces of things, and you're going to be doing harder content than you probably thought you could. And the very last thing I changed to the build is I actually leveled up my glyphs. Now, I know this sounds like super obvious, but yesterday I kind of had to rush to put that build video out. I still had glyphs that were level 15. I didn't have a single max level glyph when we were running those Nightmare like 100s. Now, all of my glyphs are level 21. They are maxed out, except for my Territorial, which is still level 20. But the amount of damage that you get from just leveling your glyphs is absurd. If you are trying out these builds, if you're trying harder content and you're not leveling your glyphs, make sure you're prioritizing that. A lot of the times I have people come into my chat and say, hey, I'm trying your trample slide, but I'm not doing the damage that you're doing, or I'm trying this build, I'm not doing the damage. And like 90% of the time, their glyphs aren't even level 15 yet, and that makes such a difference, and it makes an even bigger difference once you hit level 21 on those glyphs. You get crazy amounts of damage return. I will be updating our Paragon board as well once I get all my glyphs leveled, because we're going to go for a 6 glyph instead of 5 to get even more damage on this build. But yeah, guys, that is kind of the video. Just a quick one. I couldn't leave the ShredSplosion build as its max damage as 70 million in that build video, because it goes so much higher. It goes 4 times higher than that easily. And so yeah, I wanted to just bring some more light onto why the Bulwark Explosion is so freaking good. I'm sure that's old news to some of you, but if you haven't tried this build yet, I urge you to. The gear requirements are easier than I even thought it was, and the damage is so dumb, and it requires no uniques. The big thing to point out here, is this build is not going to work well against low tier content. You're not going to see this damage against like dungeons that are level like 40 to 60, really, because those enemies have so little health. You're only going to start seeing these massive giga numbers against enemies that really have high amounts of health. That's going to be like your 70s and higher. And once you start getting into those high difficulties, that's when you start seeing those crazy numbers because enemies will have more health and we deal more damage to healthy enemies. Crazy interaction. Guys, that is going to do it for the video. Just a short one for me. I will catch you all in the next one. Take care, guys. Peace.